That means that you and I are so bonded together, or you in this church, Caterham Community Church, are so bonded together that you are being built. That's not that you have been built or that you will be built. That's the present progressive. You are being built. And Peter uses a funny expression, living stones. How can stones live? But he's talking about the temple, and he's talking to the former times of the Jews who God inhabited the temple. God's presence was in the tabernacle, it was in the temple. But now he's saying that God's presence is not in that building of physical hard stones of granite. His presence is now in you and I and all of us. And we are having his presence in us being shaped and formed together, that we together are becoming a spiritual house. It's so easy to knock the church, isn't it? It's so easy to sort of think, well, I don't really want to go this morning, so-and-so's leading, or somebody's preaching, he's a bit dull, I don't really want to be there. And you forget that that's because you're looking for the church to serve you in some way. I always remember that speech from John F. Kennedy, if you can slow his words down a bit. Ask not what your country does for you, but what you do for your country, I think is a paraphrase of his words. But we come together not because we are being served, but because out of an expression of our love of God together, and the fact that being together is where his glory dwells. When Moses came under Mount Sinai and the people of Israel were gathered and they were receiving the law from Moses, they made a covenant with God. And what happened when that covenant happened? God came down and dwelt with his glory and his presence with his people. And you might not feel that this morning, but God's glory and presence is with us, and his presence is with us together as a fellowship, as a community of faith. This isn't individual. Make not that mistake. That is, you're the living stone and you do your own thing, and the Holy Spirit does things differently to you. It's the Holy Spirit and the presence and the glory of God for us together in the church as a community. Imagine that your lives are so intertwined with each other. Imagine a brick wall, and that you're that stone in that wall. You matter to the community that you come and worship in. You matter. If you remove that brick from that wall, how much up above you and below you and next to you are being supported by those other bricks? Are your lives together so interwoven that if one of those bricks was missing, things would start to fall apart? You see, we are all priests. We are all filled with the Holy Spirit. We are all chosen. Often we look for the church to serve us, but that's completely the wrong way around. We come to serve as God's people in community. It's intensely communion. C.S. Lewis wrote a book called The Four Loves, where he talked about friendship. And he talked about how with these friends together, he had this group of friends, he used to meet in a pub and they'd talk about life. And they were Christians and they'd talk about their faith. And one of these friends called Charles died. And he writes how this impact wasn't just that Charles left a hole because Charles wasn't there. It was that what Charles brought to Donald and brought out of Donald also was missing. That you're not individuals that make a missing mark, is that we individually bring something unique of God working in us and we share it with one another. And I see something of God in you that I might not see him, I might not notice. And you're bringing God to me in a way that I can't see often in my own life. We are so intensely communal and dependent on one another. Intensely communal means that we are called to be different. Peter is a Jew speaking with the language of Israel, and he's taking what was given to Israel, kingdom of priests, a royal nation, and a God's treasured possession, and he's transferring it onto the church and saying, that's who you are. You are God's treasured possession. You know, before you sort of say, oh, I don't really want to go to church, or I don't know about church, remember that Christ describes the church as his bride. Now, I've been married 32 years, 31, Rosie's looking at me, 31 years. And, you know, when I think about when Ros and I got married, you know, we walked down that aisle together, full of anticipation, full of the celebration of friends and family. And it was solemn as well, because we covenanted ourselves before God. But the joy of being united together in marriage, and the beautiful, and the experience that was, that is how Christ describes you as his bride. You know, you're the bride of Christ, which is why the church is so important.